Well, greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a lovely 75-degree day in Oxford, North Carolina, December 10th or 11th. I don't know what the day is, but anyway, we've got a serious line of thunderstorms coming through, and this particular weekend's activities, this 3-day stretch of pursuit of freedom and independence, includes the rebuilding of the manifold for the rain barrel water tower. And so what I've done here is just taken some 3-inch PVC and rigged it up with fittings. So this will be the new manifold. I'm going to have to insulate it, and insulate it well, especially once it's full of water, to make sure that it doesn't freeze and break. And hopefully that will happen. I don't have high expectations since it is PVC, but maybe my insulation scheme will work. But I haven't gotten to move on to the insulation part yet because I still have to test it. Now, this is the same principle as the manifold that I used last time, which is this guy here. And he did equalize pressure with all the barrels and did hold up for a little while, but sprung some air leaks and I lost some of the siphons, and so the barrels lost their ability to equalize with one another, and the fill barrel lost its ability to fill the remaining barrels with that pressure equalization scheme from the previous manifold. So I've built this manifold, and of course, you remember last time I tried to build one with an acrylic pipe, and I followed a couple of instructions that I found online for drilling acrylic pipe and for putting holes in it. And a lot of those things didn't work out so well. So what I actually wound up doing was burning holes in it, and that actually worked out beautifully. The only problem is the acrylic seems to behave much like glass does, or non-tempered glass, when you heat it and you don't cool it thoroughly. And so what it did, it developed a whole bunch of cracks around each one of these holes, even though I stripped off the burrs and sanded it down and got rid of all the rough edges so that cracks would not emerge. However, last time, as I had finished doing all that sort of stuff, I let it sit for 5 minutes by the fire, and well, not by the fire, it was actually coming right off the my little shower tower here, long distance from the fire, no real heat exposure, and all of a sudden it developed a whole bunch of cracks. And so I decided, well, shit, I guess I can't really use acrylic in the way that I want. And if it's going to be that brittle, then freezing is going to be a real issue. So I decided to try for an even cheaper method and go with PVC. The reason I wanted acrylic, clear acrylic, is to be able to see the levels, the water level in the rain barrels. And being the idiot that I am, I did not apply the lesson learned from making coffee every week, twice a week, for a meeting that I go to, and use that sort of principle on the side of the coffee pot for the sight glass, and just use that and apply that to something as cheap and as readily accessible as PVC. So that's what I did. And so I spent last night just assembling this tube. This is just 3-inch PVC, and these are just 1/2-inch brass fittings. All available in the plumbing department of Ace, Lowe's, any hardware store you go to. And then I used JB water weld that I picked up from AutoZone to seal these fittings in place. And hopefully they will hold. It is JB water weld, and I actually used some epoxy on the inside for some of them. Most of the ones down at the bottom, because I couldn't fit my fingers down for the JB weld. But and so we're going to see how it works. Anyway, the sight glass, this is all established physics. I mean, the sight glass is going to indicate what the water level is here in the tube, and the tube will receive water from all 5 rain barrels via a siphon that I'll pull from each barrel. And of course, all the rain barrels are plumbed directly from the top, so they should not develop any leaks in the bottoms. And if I do develop leaks, it'll be readily accessible for repairs. But the structure of each barrel has not been compromised. And so my next task before, or rather after updating you, is to bring that guy up here. Actually, I'm going to place him right there. I'm going to bolt the that toilet flange down. It's a 4-inch toilet flange. It was dirt cheap. So I'm going to bolt that down to the base platform of the rain barrel water tower and mount our equalizing header there, or our manifold there. And so that'll just stand upright right here, and it'll sit just a little bit above the height of all the barrels, and the sight glass should do a pretty good job indicating what the stable water level is, or at least the average water level across all barrels. And so I will, once that's done, hopefully it's done before the big storm comes through, I'll bring another video and update and show you, hopefully show you the equalization of the rain barrels, and the fact that they're all gonna hopefully do their job. But so another day in search of freedom and independence. Remember, once again, freedom doesn't mean shit if you're not independent, because as you can see around the world right now, if you're not independent of the system, they'll yank your freedom away from you. Or at least they will make you think that they're yanking your freedom away from you. Freedom is, of course, inalienable and a God-given right, and you can do as you please on this earth, and natural law is a great way to go. As far as rules of conduct are concerned, do no harm is the choice preference here. So anyway, just stoking the fire. I want to get some decent coals before the rain comes through, so I'll put this little metal roofing panel over the fire pit when the rain really starts to fall, and hopefully I won't have to fight with a bunch of wet wood tonight when the sun goes down and it starts getting dark. Anyway, we'll catch you up soon. For now, enjoy the peace of windy nature. Before it gets too dark, I want to bring forth an update on the PVC manifold and the installation that's going. I used a 4-inch toilet flange to mount to the rain barrel water tower. I've just got 2 screws going into the joists underneath, and I've actually stabilized it just using a small little whitewood timber and mounted that to the frame, and it's pretty sturdy. I made a little cradle for it so it sits upright, and it also guides the hoses, each of the hoses that's coming from each one of the rain barrels on top. And right now I'm actually fastening together a roof that's going to be insulated from the sides, and it'll be the corrugated PVC stuff, just like that stuff you see there. And it'll go flat over this and help to encapsulate the box and insulate it from outside temperatures. So I've got all the barrels hooked up. One of the downsides about this weekend, or this ongoing project, I guess, is that I'm going to have to wait for some rain, because my water levels are low. I've been using so much of the rainwater without actually collecting it. So I can't actually test the manifold until we get some rain, so I can get considerably more water in the main fill barrel. So unfortunately that's going to have to wait. But I finished the frame and finished running siphon lines from each of the tops of the barrels and replacing the garden hose. And I'm hoping that enclosing this insulated box will keep things from freezing and allow these barrels to absorb a lot of energy from the sun during the daytime without losing enough of that energy to cause freezing in this closed cell, which it will all be. So anyway, I've just done a basic frame with some of the scrap wood I've had around, and ran all 5 of my lines through here. All 5 of those lines run through the top unit and go down to the ports that are in the manifold. And of course this is my sight glass, so this will tell me what the water level is when the one fill barrel is full, and the manifold can equalize with all the other barrels and show me what the average level is. So before it gets dark, thought I'd bring you up to date on that. And so right now I'm fastening together out of more scrap styrofoam and such, the rooftop. And so the rooftop, unlike the one that blew off today, because it's been a high wind condition day, this roof is actually going to lay flat, and I'm fashioning these pieces out of some styrofoam box that I got from something or another. We bought something, and anyway, it's good thick styrofoam, so I'm just cutting it up and fashioning lines, insulation, walls, gates, if you will, for the rooftop, which I will fashion out of the rest of that corrugated PVC and stretch to the back side of the rain barrel water tower. And so hopefully, as this comes together, we will find functionality. We're supposed to get some rain today. We haven't seen any rain today, and actually it's been a gorgeous 75 degrees. We got the moon overhead, and the clouds are starting to break up, and I'm hoping that we get some cloud-free sunshine tomorrow, and maybe even get some rain tonight, because there goes a bat, because the rain gutter is hooked up now, and the fill barrel is at such a low point that it needs filling. So I can draw the siphon on it, plug that siphon into the manifold, and allow the manifold to do the work of equalizing the levels in the remaining barrels that are not yet full, and that are not connected directly to the gutter. So that's the whole idea. We'll have to get some rain first, but anyway, until then, enjoy the peace of nature. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a success. So we got a lovely rain last night, and of course yesterday I reattached the rain gutter to the roof because I needed more water in my main fill barrel to conduct the experiment of testing whether or not the manifold that I built out of PVC was going to work. And of course the principle is simple enough. But I wanted to find out if I was actually going to be able to pull 5 siphons off of each of the barrels and run it into this manifold here, and see if it would equalize with the remaining 4 barrels. The fill barrel would equalize with the remaining 4, and it does work. So it took a little bit of probing for a while, but I must say that the hydraulic action of pressure inside this main vessel helps very, very much for pulling a vacuum on the fill tubes for the other 5 barrels. So that makes it really simple to prime the system, so long as each of the barrels is full enough for the pickup hose that's lying in the bottom of each barrel. And it's just, it's actually a garden hose. I didn't use this clear vinyl stuff. I used garden hose. So, and I run the clear vinyl hose out of the top of the barrel so that I can see and make sure it's full of water instead of air bubbles, air pockets, and so on and so forth. So anyway, so as long as the barrel, the rain level in each barrel is sufficient for the bottom of the tube to pick up on, then we can I can actually pull a vacuum and prime the pump using the added hydraulic pressure from pulling on this main tube, and that just draws water up through the small tubes from the barrels into this manifold, and allows the pressure to sort of equalize in each of the barrels. I mean, the level in each barrel is not going to be perfect, and they're not all going to equalize and to the same level, but pressure differentials will cause each barrel to fill, as long as the fill barrel has a sufficient amount of head water above the line that the other barrels are on to force water into the manifold, which will equalize pressure with the other hoses, and so on and so forth. I'm not a great explainer of this particular theory, but it's very cool stuff. Anyway, this manifold design made it nice and easy. And as you can see, our fill level, I guess our average fill level for the barrels is right around there, which isn't bad, considering that a lot of them had not enough water for the fill tube to pick up on. So I actually had to blow into the manifold and create a high pressure zone inside the manifold and force water back into each of the barrels, which came from the main fill barrel. And I did that a couple of times, cycled it a few times, and then so I'd blow into the system and create a high pressure and force water into each of the barrels, and then I'd pull a suction and kind of work the air bubbles out that way. So now all the air bubbles are worked out. All four main what's a good word? Receiver barrels. Let's call them receiver barrels, as contrary to the fill barrel, which gets fed by the rain gutter. So the receiver barrels are now all full, and the system is primed. They don't have any air bubbles in them, which means that the water level in each of the barrels is sufficient to fill these tubes and to equalize with the manifold, so that we can get some some equalization, pressure equalization action here. So I can leave this thing. I can leave it, but it's not really sufficiently insulated, and I have to enclose this box. Yesterday we had high winds, and the roof actually folded up and blew off and tore itself off of the makeshift hinges that I put back there. So that was kind of a problem, but it did provide me with some raw materials so that I could construct this flat piece for. And I think that's actually more important at this stage in the game, because that will help to enclose the box itself and create a warmer, more stable climate for the rain barrels to accept sunlight, to warm up in the sunlight, and hopefully not to experience any kind of a hard freeze or anything like that, because obviously this manifold is not going to survive a hard freeze, being that it's plastic. And so what I'm going to do is just I'm going to blow into the top tube. This guy right here, this guy mounts to the top of the manifold, and so I'll just put that on there. I'll blow into the tube and create a high pressure zone in here, force all the water out of the manifold, and ultimately air into each of the receiver tubes, and also into the fill barrel tube, that one right there, and clear the system so that when I leave today, the manifold is not full of water, so that when it gets down to 28 degrees tonight, I won't come back to a whole bunch of broken, cracked fittings and kind of a dismal disaster that way. Anyway, what's great is that the system works, and it does as it's intended. I still have yet to plumb it. I'm going to put a tube from the cap tube that goes on the top of the manifold down to, just like I have in the rain barrels, I'm going to do that, run a tube from this bottom fitting here, and that will go down into the bottom of the manifold. So I'm actually going to draw water from the manifold itself and plumb that into the house, and insulate the ever-living hell out of everything. Make sure that we don't have any frozen, broken pipes or any of that crap, and that way I can plumb the biogas toilet and the shower, and I can go ahead and install the propane water heater that we have here. So I can run the water through the water heater, through the propane water heater, and that'll heat and furnish me with a lovely supply of warm water to take hot showers and stuff. And I'll also have a line coming down to feed the biogas toilet. But I can't operate the biogas toilet until I have the digester set up. And so that is one of the things that will come after the establishment of the manifold, is I will build a platform at a lower region down here, slightly below the deck of the house where the biogas toilet sits, and plumb the biogas toilet into the biogas digester, so that we have a place to flush. And of course the digester will receive my waste and any of my visitors' waste, and process it and feed the bacteria and create cooking fuel or heating fuel and, methane gas, compressed natural gas at the end of it, because I need to purify the gas, and I also need to compress the gas and pump it into these 4 cylinders that I got from Dad when I went to rebuild my transmission and Sweet Bob 2 weeks ago. So, So anyway, that's going to add a lot more functionality to the overall system, give me a more complete and functional house, and also further the ultimate agenda, which is freedom and independence. And so right now I have shelter independence. Yay! I am very close to water independence. Yay! We are electricity independent, although not as much as we will be. Yay! And then food independence is coming, of course, but having the other independent elements will allow the food element to go a lot more smoothly. So we are shelter independent, water independent, electricity independent, and soon to be with the biogas system fuel independent. And with the advent of all those things, a functional house that I don't need to really worry about too much, so I can really focus on establishing the food independence. And then we're a happy camper. We're free and independent. And freedom don't mean shit if you're not independent, because obviously you can see that the tyrants will take your freedoms away from you if you don't comply. So fuck them. We're gonna get it for ourselves. And in a world of abundance such as that we live in, it's perfectly doable, and it's a whole hell of a lot of fun. So anyway, and then of course once all those elements are established and maintained and stable, then I can worry more about form instead of function, which is fucking awesome, because I'd love to make this whole place look kind of uniform and rebuild the boardwalk and have parties out here and bonfires and fucking hunt clubs. I don't know what the hell. I mean, we've already got shooting targets back there, and just have a good time, man. Build community, build what our society and our species requires to survive and thrive, regardless of circumstance and regardless of political structures or affiliations. Anyway, so it's that's my idea of retirement. Anyway, so thanks for joining, and hope you enjoyed, and more updates to come. Peace. Oh, yeah, enjoy the peace of nature.